We are calling the policy committee, the BPU Board Policy Committee, meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Mulvaney Henry,
Here.
Bryant
Here.
and Groneman.
Here.
Have a quorum.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve this evening's agenda?
It's Jeff, move to approve.
Is there?
There's a second to right up there.
Motion to approve the agenda has been moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Mulvaney Henry,
Aye.
Bryant,
Aye.
Groneman.
Aye.
That motion carries.
Super great. That brings us to our review of the board procedures policy. So let me refresh y'all's memories that we had gone through this through two sessions and came out with what we believe to be an understanding of what this committee would put forth to the full board. And it took me a while, so apologize for the delay, to put together the red lines back to Angie, which I did. And so some of the verbiage and stuff I put in here, wasn't exactly what we discussed. So I wanted to make sure this committee was, and I sort of just did it based on feel and context at the time, sort of going off of what our discussion was. So I want to make sure that this committee is on board with the revisions that were made, and or if there are edits that need to be made to the proposed revisions. There are actually some selections that need to be made as well of some language, but that we could just go through that real quick before we get it to the full board.
First page. The first thing I'm seeing is not the paragraph alternative language, the one below it, elected board members may attend any regular meeting. Reading through that one, and it says, provided such meeting is not executive, understand, such board member has provided advance notice to the president and general manager. Well, a board member wouldn't necessarily have to provide advance notice just to attend. I think that word should be may participate.
May participate in
Any regular or special meeting, if they're, that would be if they've given advance notice. Otherwise, I mean, just as far as if the meeting is online, no one can be precluded from attending. Watching, you just couldn't.
Sure.
Yeah, no, otherwise it doesn't really, I don't understand the reason why they have to provide advance notice to the president and general manager just to attend.
Probably.
Very good point, but we
Well,
do
it used
expect
to
a
be
board
because-
member to participate if they're.
Yes,
If that-
it used to be because it was a quorum, but now the rule is all meetings are open except executive sessions, including committee meetings. Didn't used to be that way when it was only three. We didn't have to have it televised and everything, and they weren't. Now they're all considered.
I don't think we have to now, do we?
The committee meetings, yes. If it is, they look at the quorum of the committee, not the quorum of the board for committees.
Yeah.
The AG clarified that several years
So,
ago.
so all these are open meetings now, and have to be notified. So, yeah, it just makes more sense that it would be something like, if a board member wishes to participate in the meeting, they need to make sure, and they're not on that committee, that, they need to make sure somebody knows they're there or going to be there to give them permission to participate.
Yeah, and it's not even
Yeah.
not looking to give permission, like anyone's free to do it, just the heads up though is, like, I don't know if,
Yeah.
you guys don't know if I'm attending remotely or not, right? But and obviously we all try to.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm just saying though, that.
You're right.
put it in there makes it sound like
Yep.
you're going to be excluded if you can't, watching, and that's not the case.
Yeah, so I would put participate in.
Yeah.
So you want Rob to edit it if we go?
I
I
do.
think so. That would be easier.
Thanks, Rob. I don't know, do you want it to be another 3 weeks before I get back with my edits? Or more? There was some context, I think, on the email that I sent you, Angie, as to why I highlighted. I think I highlighted things that were new language not necessarily discussed. Is that, do you recall? I could probably.
I can find it really, like I just,
Well, there's still, you have the red lines and the strikes, so you still see what they are.
let's see. I've highlighted a few, excuse. I have highlighted a few areas where I added language, but it was not necessarily discussed with the committee.
Okay, yeah, I knew that there, I knew I did something with that. So yeah, so that's, so if it's not highlighted, we had discussed it and likely agreed to it, but doesn't mean that can't be revised as well, obviously, based on.
You know, that was the only thing that I saw on so far on page one for me. Unless somebody else, I mean, if following what you've stricken and going with the replacement. I think
Okay.
it makes sense to me so far.
Okay, so I think the second paragraph, the alternative language to the above,
Yeah,
I don't recall as I sit here why I am proposing or why the proposed language is there,
I
but
think it was an additional to that because in the first paragraph, it doesn't cover. It covers basically, you know, our regular standard first and third Wednesdays, but by a board vote, we can change to a different day of the month.
right,
In
that's a good
either one
point.
of those meetings. So I think it's good to, I mean, not put alternative language above,
Obviously.
but just leave it started with an alternative date for a regular meeting of the board other than may be established. I think that is good to put in there. That way it warns people that if somebody comes in and says, it wasn't on the third Wednesday, your rules say it will always be on the third Wednesday. Well, this gives us
Okay,
the option to change that. You know,
so that one should actually, that sentence should actually go after 540 Minnesota Avenue, period, right?
yeah, it would probably be good to put it up there so that you're covering all of the potential times
Right.
and dates. And then you could even have the next one, you know, you could drop such to a new paragraph. If you wanted, I only do that because I know what, you know, but legally, as you guys like to have really long paragraphs.
Stop it.
I'm just saying, I don't, I like more concise, but anyway. Yeah, I think that it could just be fit right in there.
And actually, when I insert the alternative language after 500 minutes.
Right, and then such starts the new paragraph.
Yeah. Yeah, the yellow for such would be a new paragraph. Yeah, I think it looks pretty good. I hadn't thought about that, adding that part to it about the fact that sometimes, you know, travel or.
That very issue may come up tonight yet.
You never know. Hope not, I'll have to look at my schedule. This is a very busy time of year.
Indeed. 1.2, I think I added via hand delivery just because that is how it's done sometimes, and I just didn't wanna make sure that that was included.
Yeah, I saw that and I started to, and then I thought, you know, reality is, the budget books will probably be hand delivered.
Yep.
So it's still applicable.
Rose, were you added the elected board
Yes,
in section 1.2? Shouldn't elected be to modify members and not the board? Or elected members of the board?
well, I guess we go back up top, and I think this was. And really, I'm gonna lean on Angela for this because, I mean, we're talking about. These are the policies of the elected board, right? And so I think that's why I'm modifying it that way. And if
If you capitalize elected, then
No, I think it's
not defined, so no.
we're not necessarily proper.
I do like, know how you're well on your way to getting your law degree. It's like a lot. Okay, I don't, well, I don't. So I guess I'm relying on you guys to tell me where I might have messed up.
last line, except it's authorized by a vote of 4 members versus consensus, so consensus of 4 members implies 3 of 4.
Consensus implies what?
3 or 4, a consensus of the board. Yeah, you just say consensus of the board. Or the elected board.
Because we specify of 4 board members.
I know we discussed that specifically, so.
My assumption is that you changed this because if you're in an executive session, you could not take a vote.
That's right, that's what we talked about. That's
And that's
specific to, we don't take a vote.
right. So that might be the rationale before the verbiage consensus.
I literally wrote the word consensus on my handwritten notes when we discussed this originally.
But I think if that's the question of why it's consensus
Mhm.
instead of, or was that your,
I'm just saying,
No.
unless you have of 4 in between consensus and board members, it implies the consensus is of 4 board members, which would be 3 of 4. You want consensus of the board, and then which would be at least 4
Okay.
of,
So a consensus of the elected board.
yeah, that would be better language.
In an open meeting.
No, because you change it to consensus, so it didn't have to be an open meeting.
right, it
Except
was,
that-
if this is very narrowly drawn to talk about an executive session. So then to discuss the topic that you're discussing about whether or not you want to release it, you would probably just do it as a consensus instead of a
straw poll.
vote. And so instead of in an open meeting, because once you introduce it to the open meeting, you'd have
It has to.
it
the
already
whole
be
thing is-
open.
Yeah, okay, I understand.
Hey Jeff, on this one before, in the second to last, well, the first paragraph at the top, Lorraine, you want it, I know we don't allow attendance
Nope,
via,
I thought I
but
liked
do
it.
you want to say attend or participate in? Or are you good with just, if they can't attend, they can't?
They can't
participate?
attend, they can't participate.
Okay,
But I mean, if you want to, we could, just to make sure that we're covering our bases. I mean, I don't know when the next time this policy will ever come back in front of a policy committee, so we might as well tighten it up as much as we can, make it as accurate. So yeah, permitted to attend or participate in an executive session.
perfect.
You know, the second paragraph under 2.1
Mhm.
about calling somebody, that has never happened. As long as I've been on the board for 12 years, I don't remember us ever trying to call out to somebody to get them to come in.
Yeah, I'll never say never.
I just said I
I know.
haven't seen it yet. I have never seen it, but doesn't mean I won't. What happened tonight?
Guess when we thought we were safe.
And I think you'd be able to do that even without the language.
Yeah, I know. I just thought, I just
Yeah.
never realized, you know, see things in new light.
You know, in this day and age, never want to leave anything to chance.
No, you don't. So many ways to connect. 3-1, Bob's favorite thing.
The election of officers?
The nomination of secretary.
Ah,
He's. Yeah, we need to make sure that this is very tight. Nothing, it doesn't really matter. He won't be here for the next election.
yeah, on the rule 4 committees down there. Permanent is just misspelled. I think it's, that happened in the conversion of the document. Thank you.
So on that one you were talking about where the word permanent,
Mhm.
read that sentence. When you take the strike out, it becomes permanent committees may, those deemed necessary.
I should say may include those deemed.
One word got striked out. Each is unstriking include. Yep.
Well, that's right.
I think because it's edit you made in the same year.
I don't think I locked it though. Crazy. And how Charlie changes this, reject deletion. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, comment there on that one. Not sure what you guys wanna do with that. The one right above rule 5, that's.
Yeah,
My
so I was thinking maybe we stop after the word interveners. It's in the sentence there. Well, I'd wait till it's agreed on, but I'm thinking and to meet with interveners. Period.
Yeah, I agree.
And then
Strike on their
strike
behalf.
on their behalf.
Mhm. Yeah, and Rob, some of this formatting is just off because of the conversion, so I'm hoping that someone will clean all that up. Prior to this. Getting finalized.
Rose,
Yes,
when we vote in a meeting, do you announce whether or not it carried or defeated?
do I announce whether or not what?
If it passed or not, or does Angela?
I don't. And I don't think we always do, but Angela,
I know, but I'm just
Say that.
looking at 5-1. It's kind of weird. I never mentioned that, but following the vote is about midway through the paragraph. Following the vote of the presiding. And it will announce whether the question carried or was defeated. The presiding officer,
Or its designee.
yeah. Or designee, maybe, yeah, that
Or
would,
designee.
yeah. That way you just make sure
Yeah.
that you don't get called out.
Thank you. And you for future use.
Yeah. So are you on to 6-1 yet?
Oh, I'm way past it. Go ahead.
Yeah, we saw. So on 6-1, that, you know, that first paragraph, that changing it to a Thursday for an agenda item, I think is reasonable. And you mentioned, like to discuss about the second paragraph for any meeting in which a vote would not be requested. Supporting documentation for the meeting at least 24 hours in advance of such meeting. I have no problem with that. I think that there was, I believe, something earlier on that kind of precluded that though, about special meetings.
Well,
Which you mentioned, unless such notice is not practical under circumstances. So I wonder if that though would hit this right here, because isn't this kind of going with the special meeting? Or is this just talking about a new agenda item?
I mean, the way that it was worded, it's like, okay, and that's the existing language, right? Okay, so if a vote is being requested, right,
Then we need time to,
then, hey, it'll be provided in advance. Well, obviously, you know, we talk about timeframes all the time. Or at least I do. And you know, I thought 48 hours was reasonable there. I'd prefer obviously much longer.
yeah, I agree.
But so that's the only reason I put, okay, if there's a meeting, you know, at which a vote is not requested, which that happens that happens almost every other week anyway. I mean, we don't do votes all the time on things.
Well, but what this. I mean, this falls into the presentations for a meeting.
Uh-huh.
Basically, anything that's going to be an agenda item should have information. An information packet of some type that the board would receive. Prior, at least one day before, if it's non-voter, if it's an electric update or whatever, which I would like this.
I'd like to put it 7 days in advance, but I don't think we have that luxury.
I don't know
So,
that a lot of these presentations are built 7 days.
I hear you.
So. But I know how it gets on crunch time with the customer or whatever, for PowerPoints, so. But I do like the idea of a day in advance,
So do you think that part that I added just needs like a special meeting modifier?
well, the only thing I'm wondering about is if you go back to the first page. And you look at the special meetings and it's just talking about something comes up and there's nothing, I'm just wondering. Even though this is talking specifically about an agenda item, if they can be. If they should be, or if it's fine to leave it just the way it is, that. There'll be 24 hours notice on basically anything that's gonna be on the agenda.
But maybe if we, in the first part where where I had 48 hours,
Mm-hmm.
maybe if we just delete at which a vote will be requested. So anytime,
So then any information being needed. And I'm okay with,
and maybe we add in whenever possible back in, but
Whatever. possible.
I'd prefer that it be
Yeah, the
a little bit more
problem is if
rigid
you put in
than whenever possible.
It becomes always, or
Right.
it can be too often,
Right,
depending on what's going on. It lessens.
Except in a case of.
It lessens the prioritization. To get completed in advance, so,
so,
but there may be, if there's something that's a last minute, needs to be thrown on the agenda. Then we may not have. The availability of, or the luxury of the 48-hour notice, but materials. So I want to make sure that we keep that in mind.
so maybe we start it instead of saying whenever possible, unless not practicable under the circumstances, comma, board members shall receive available information and supporting documentation at least 48 hours in advance of a meeting of the board, period.
Yeah,
And then you take out the last sentence.
that last.
It doesn't make any sense.
The darkened sentence, yeah. Yeah,
Mr. Johnson, do you have any issue with that?
I do not.
Thank you.
Rob, did you capture all of them?
It's okay, that's all right. So, yeah, unless not practicable
Where are we putting that in?
instead of wherever possible, sorry,
Okay.
or whenever
Unless not
possible.
practical.
Unless not practicable under the circumstances, comma. And then end it. The phrase that begins at which a vote will be requested, delete that. And take out the comma after board and just, that's where the period would go. Yep. Yeah, that makes a lot more sense.
So where does it end? I'm sorry.
It ends in advance of a meeting of the board, period. I mean, I guess the point is, what does it matter if a vote's being taken or not?
Right.
Because the next sentence is, if the information isn't available,
we're not gonna, yeah.
So everything else will be taken out, including the highlighted portion.
the highlighted portion will be taken out, but not the sentence that follows it. If such information is available but not provided to board members reasonably in advance of the board meeting, no vote will be permissible.
Except that you
Unless
don't
you
want that in there.
Hmm?
You want to leave that in there? Because the thing I'm thinking about that would be, well, I guess unless you suspend the rules, we left in that caveat because if if it's a resolution that comes in front of us and it just needs to be done because we having to transfer money from one to another because something blew up or, yeah, then you want to have that availability with less than 48 hours notice.
See what the highlighted sections show, but
Yes, please. Yeah, and 6.2 is dependent upon what has been added to 7.2, I believe. Yeah, 7.2. This is where we talked about two different points in the meeting at which attendees could speak.
Oh, okay, adding it into the
And
second.
I tried to shrink this down to the second part, the second ability or the second period of time to speak. It has to be, with respect to an agenda item.
Yeah.
Right, so that can't just be a free for all.
Yeah,
Oh,
it
now I
yeah,
wanna
it
bring
has to
up
be a
this,
limited,
that,
it has to be a limited and we'll have to set.
Right,
Well,
and so I put both of those to 3 minutes, right, versus
Okay.
5,
yeah.
but I didn't know if that.
But are we gonna limit it to we're gonna limit it to the first X number of commentors? I think that you have to, because what would happen if you have, and it may not be for us, we have to think about this for future boards. What if you have 30 people came in purposely to disrupt? And they speak at the beginning, and then they wait, and then after every agenda item, they get up, and all 30 of them take their full amount of time, and they're just, it would.
About the agenda item,
Just about.
but that's the
But-
point, I mean.
I know, but it
Well,
wouldn't
I
be
mean,
that
that's when the
hard.
presiding officer has to take control of the room.
Well, that's why I'm saying is, do we want to just say the first 5 comments? I mean, to me, the whole idea behind the agenda item discussion with public was that we've asked that the presentations be made in a way that are much more user friendly for people who aren't working in this industry every day. And by doing that, then you're just cleaning up any leftover confusion of what the presentation was that they just saw. So it would be a time for them to get up and speak their opinion on that subject and, pose questions that may or may not be answered, at the very end, when it becomes a miscellaneous comments from staff and board. Because that's how I'm picturing it, but maybe I'm not picturing it right, but I was thinking that electric ops does their presentation. Afterwards, it's like public comment, and we'll open up public comment to the first 5 commenters, which speak.
Well, this isn't after each agenda item, this is after all the agenda items.
So we're just gonna have the single at the end of the night? Okay, Okay.
And look at the order,
well, yeah, before board comments.
that's right.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that it's not gonna be after every agenda item.
Nope.
That was what I was, in my mind, I was thinking we were gonna do it after every presentation.
Nope.
Financial and everything, and then that just would make a night.
Well, that's how the standing committees.
I understand, and we talked about it.
We did talk about it.
Right, but I think that
They do their comments with each
I
agenda item.
understand, but that's not what we're looking.
And that's what I was thinking.
We're
I'm
looking
like-
for, here's all the agenda items in the regular session. And if you attendee have a comment that is no more than 3 minutes on an agenda item that was addressed,
Presented,
then there.
okay,
And I can tell you that I don't know when these will go into effect, but if they go into effect soon and I'm still the board president, then I will enforce it.
So,
Yes.
so on the agenda, what I'll do is, like outlined here, the first time the public can speak, we'll call that visitor comments.
Sure.
Later on, I'll call it public comments, just to show some separation or difference between them.
yeah.
Instead of visitor, public, just,
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, you could call it public at both so that
okay.
they know that that's public time.
Well, that's the
Public
thing, it's like
comment.
visitor comments and that's why I modified it with on substantive agenda items, right? So it's not like,
Yeah,
if I've got, if I came in late to the meeting after the visitor comment section was over, right? And we're into the agenda items, and because I came in late to the meeting, I'm not gonna have the ability to address the bill issue that I have. That's not what that time's for. I think that's what we're.
unless the presentation happened to be
Is about billing.
about billing.
Right.
Right,
So.
does that make sense?
So, but
That's gonna be stated up front in your prepared statement.
This hasn't been passed yet, sir.
No, I mean.
I would think that when you open it for
So-
public
so
comment,
Somebody's
that's,
coming to the board meeting for the first time, they see
Yes.
public comment, visitor, whatever it is, they'll know what this section is reserved for, and they'll know what this item.
Well, I mean, as long as we call it that thing, right? I mean, that's literally why I put it there. So it's gotta have the whole name, visitor comments on substantive agenda items. But I think we're gonna have to, obviously, and I know it's hard to see on the grade, but we're gonna have to, take some time to do some education.
And there's a reason why we didn't want to let them do like the UG does and comment, we have an agenda item. And they say, okay, board members, you got any questions, you got anything you want to say? Does the public have anything they want to say?
After each individual item. I mean, I think the meeting will flow more efficiently if we don't do it that way, but I also don't attend the standing meeting, so I don't really have a familiarity with that. I mean, I've seen them, but
Nobody ever, rarely have anybody that has any comments.
it just depends on which meeting, yeah.
Right.
Finance.
It is prior to the vote, which
Mhm.
is different here. And it is also then there are no, well,
And it might be that would be good if it's prior to the, if you already vote, if you have if it's something we take a vote on and then they make a comment after the, valid comment after the vote's been taken, what do you?
So that reshape the board's opinion on those
That's
items.
what-
So when the public comes up and start demonstrating against the action or proposed board vote, is that gonna say, okay, well, we can't take it up tonight, so we just keep kicking cans down the road and we're not conducting utility business?
oh, I don't have any intention of kicking anything down the road. I mean,
Okay, we're here at 12:45 in the morning.
I would hope not.
I'm okay leaving it like this, where it's just a public comment at the end of all the agenda items before we get into board comments.
Personally, I think it should be at the time of that agenda item is discussed. If you wait until at the end, then it gets, what item are you talking about?
Well, we don't have that many presentations, Cindy.
And there's not that many things what's going on.
I mean, we're only talking couple, well, yeah, and I don't know that there would be anything, if I'm prepared to take a vote.
Wouldn't you rather have the comments before the vote though?
I would.
Well, then it goes back to, okay, the board's already heard it, here's the public outcry. Does that change potential vote? Play it or anything like that?
Well, is there something coming up that we haven't all have our own beliefs in with, with the information we've gotten from my voters? I don't know that there's many that come up. That
Well, I'm thinking about the guys that's gonna be.
I am
board
too,
members down-
but I'm talking about anybody. So what's a controversial one? The air quality control systems in Nearman was controversial, but this wasn't something that was like, we walk into a meeting and we vote on something that big immediately. There's substantial meetings that lead up to that, and there's all the time I need to be able to talk to my constituents about it.
A reason why you don't want people to?
I just think that either, I'm okay with them speaking after each agenda item, but I think if that's the case, we say, the first 5 comments or something, because you still have to have a flow. You remember, you've got staff here, they're on salary, but they've already worked all the way through the day and you're
Me
gonna,
too.
I agree, but we chose this.
But we pay their salary.
But we chose this,
So
so
we pay their
you
salary.
still should be, you should
And some are
still
getting
be,
comp time for it.
yeah, you should still be aware of.
I'm sensitive to it.
And
I don't have 17 meetings on a Wednesday either. I'd like to do them on other days of the week, but I can't get anybody does that. So. I mean, I'm sensitive to it, but what's the longest I've ever been here? 9:30, 10 o'clock? And that's with executive session? Seriously, and I'm being very serious.
Yeah.
You start your days early, I know you do. No offense, retiree.
Yeah.
So what? So. It is what it is. And I don't know that we have agreement on this, so
yeah,
do we want to take this to work session and
I
discuss
think,
that in that work
I
session?
think that section right
Because,
there.
because that
Sure.
does, and it does matter. I mean,
It
directly
makes a
correlates to
huge
7.2.
impact. Yeah,
This is the biggest issue, I think, in this whole thing.
Yeah.
And then,
well, it's gonna be the biggest change too, the biggest
That's right.
subsidy.
that's what I'm saying, I mean, that'll be the biggest discussion point. In fact, I'm trying to think if there's any more real substantive changes after this.
But yeah, that's the thing is let's look at the rest of it and try to wrap it up.
Well, it looks like, no, I don't think they're, well.
I would,
Yes.
there is a reference to results in an interactive dialogue between board members.
Yes, you told us to avoid questions.
The question, yes, with this, I'm bringing that up
I
because
hear you.
recent and then you can't censor the questions if you start allowing questioning and it does lead to some hostility towards staff and elected officials sometimes that then gets out of, has potential to get out of control. I mean, that's just, all the seminars I've been to recently, that is a topic of, that is the public's time to comment, to voice their opinions and concerns, and perhaps a general question to the board, but not specific questioning of board and staff members. It's not an interrogation period
For a debate.
because
But we do sometimes exceed the 5 minute. I mean, this is really to address the 5 minute time period, right? I mean, we have the ability to extend the time period if we'd like. In fact, the presiding officer has the ability to extend the time period if they'd like, right? And so
depending
what I'm
how you,
saying
right,
is-
you can craft that, how the board can craft that, the extension, however the board wishes it, if it's the presiding officer or a vote is taken. That's up to how the board wishes to handle that.
But this is talking about a board member speaking for
Speaking
5
on one,
consecutive minutes.
on one, and I'm taking that.
I mean, I can tell you,
Okay,
we've not exactly adhered to that
Well,
sometimes.
I'm taking it to mean that if is an interactive dialogue and they speak for 4.5 minutes and then somebody else replies and then
Right.
then it starts over again. The clock for the 5 minutes starts again.
Well, but I mean,
I understand what you're saying.
you know what I'm saying? I mean,
Yeah, and
I know I violated this myself.
And yeah, it's hard, you try
Sometimes-
not to,
It depends on, what the issue is,
but how
right?
passionate you are about that it can really lead to.
Well, it could be a rate hearing. I don't know. And so that's why I try to, it's like but it could lead to a dialogue between a board member and a staff member that, which may spur questions by other board members or whatever. So that's, this is not other time period, Angie. This is
okay.
board member time period. And again, this is something that does need to be reviewed, obviously by you guys, but also the full board. So I think this is something probably for work session discussion as well. I think work sessions we have the rest of the year,
We're running out of.
not enough.
Yeah. Yeah, because we'll probably need to also,
Just need to be longer.
They probably do need to be longer, and that's the thing is we also have these policy committee meetings, and I don't know what else. What to do.
Well, with that, I did have, I think that should be a good conversation. The board is only required to meet once a month. Right, by the charter, somehow we were meeting twice, I can't think back when that started. But if we're gonna need a lot of work session topics, a lot of special session topics, policies or whatever. Does it make sense to have one meeting reserved, set aside as a regular meeting? And then the other week, Wednesday set aside as a work session, special session meeting, all combined, so you'll have more time to do this on the, maybe this first or the third Wednesday. The other one becomes a longer regular session meeting, but we can get all the regular session stuff done. So that's something for you to think about. I'm not just asking a question.
We used to do it.
Hopefully, once we get through the policies, we won't be needing to meet them all.
Well, we used to do it that you'd have two different committee meetings, up to two different committee meetings in a month. And committee meeting was at 4 o'clock, work session was at 5 o'clock, regular session was 6 o'clock, executive session fall beyond. And that's, I mean, it's worked for years, but then COVID kind of took us to where we weren't having any committee meetings. You know, you can't, it's hard to do an economic development when there's no economic development, you know, there's no opportunities coming in front of you. So I think we got complacent out of habit. So I think we just go back to just saying our work session, well, our meetings start at 4 o'clock on the first and third Wednesdays and the first hour will be a committee meeting. We have enough rooms that two different committees could be meeting on the same time.
Good, except, I mean, I haven't seen a need for any of the other.
I'm just saying, I'm not saying
Except for
right now, I'm just saying in the future even, just for the rules.
Yep.
Basically, I mean, I think we could put it in, well, I don't know that you have to put it into a rule, but it should just be an assumption that committee meetings begin at 4 to 5. You can have two different committees meeting on the same day if there's enough topics needed. And then everybody comes together, does work session starting at 5.
Can the technology accommodate two different committee meetings simultaneously? Okay.
So,
Um,
if nothing else for them, so that people can watch it, you know,
yeah,
because you can only see one. So then they can come back and they can watch the other one that they missed.
I can have two computers open.
Yeah.
All right. Not finishing on another meeting, or you just schedule it with the full board?
I feel like this document should go to the full board. And we should take it up
It's just,
at the next available work session.
Yeah.
And I will tell you, that, you know, we're getting to the point where an hour for a work session isn't long enough either. And I know we all know that, so I don't know what to do about that either.
Okay, so we got.
So every other Wednesday, Bill, we're gonna be here from noon on.
That's okay. We'll talk about. I think the next work session is, well. Don't know, so we'll talk.
Well,
What you want to do with.
yeah, I mean, we probably should map this out. just so-
I agree.
Yeah,
and probably should get copies of this to the rest of the board as soon as possible.
That's what I said, yeah.
So that, yeah,
So I had copies of what you.
these right here.
Yeah,
If you
yes.
Send the updated version. to
Yeah,
Mark
that would be
Rob has
better.
Made some edits on, because it's still
Yes.
the rest of the ones that are still.
Yeah, because otherwise they'll be
Yes.
spending their time going over the.
Yes, but I can hand these, but I'll hand these out tonight.
No, okay. It's getting close. Hi, Mary. Do I have a motion to adjourn the policy committee meeting?
This is Jeff, this is Jeff second.
Somehow that was moved and seconded. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Mulvaney Henry,
Aye.
Bryant,
Aye.
Groneman.
I
That motion carries. The policy committee